Welcome to our ingenious agents and investors nationwide. Today is Thursday, January 13th, 2022, and this is Mastermind call number 361. The queue is empty right now. Again, just hit *6 and hit 1. If my partners don't mind, I'll start with a little story this week. And there's a few things that I think it can teach all of us. And by the way, if Hal or Jason Blake are on the call, I'll let you tell it, but I think they said they had a listing appointment. If Hal or Jason are on, hit *6 and hit 1. And I guess they are not. Hal called me this week, and he said, hey, he's got a coach that he's followed for many years now, and the coach asked him to host the company-wide call this week and asked Hal what he wanted to talk about. And he said, well, if you don't mind, he said, I've had tremendous success with probate. I'd like to talk about that. And Hal called me and said, would you mind if I mentioned your company? And obviously I didn't. Couple things came up in the conversation. I shared with Hal, if any of you guys have a big sphere of influence like that, it doesn't even have to be big, but if you know other people that would be interested, in our program and getting our leads and everything else we have to offer, we do have a really good affiliate program. And I sent Hal to our website, alltheleads.com/affiliates. He just went on there. There's a sample of a landing page that we can create for you. There is a place where you can go now and just review and sign the affiliate agreement, which he did. And you can generate a little bit of residual income there. I think most of our subscribers, get 3 or even 4 figures. I think we had 1 or 2 that are getting 5 figures that have been with us a long time. It adds up over time. So we really appreciate it. We want to compensate all of you if you do refer people to us. Obviously, you're probably not going to refer your competition in your market, but when you go to trade shows, if there are any anymore, I think they're starting back up. But when you go to your conventions and you meet and talk to people outside of your particular market, please send them to us. The other thing that I was extremely impressed with, Hal said, I told my coach, I've been doing probate since 2015, and every single year we've generated over 6 figures income. And to be honest with you, we had no idea he was doing that well. And Hal also shared with me, he said, very honestly, I told him, we really, we overscreen our leads. We are not real good on lead follow-up. We just kind of take the low-hanging fruit and we move on. And when he said that to me, I suggested, and Bruce, I think he's going to reach out to you. I said to him, can you imagine if you're doing 6 figures every year just with the initial contact, what if you put together a really good lead follow-up system? And I suggested that he reach out and hire one or more of our ISAs to him with that. Because if he's doing that well just with the initial calls and letters, I mean, look how much he's leaving on the table. And he mentioned that to me. So 3 things I wanted to, again, to recap. If any of you would like to be an affiliate, alltheleads.com/affiliates. If any of you are wondering, does it pay to stick with the program? Here's a guy that's been with us for 6 years and is going on $1 million income and really not doing it the way he should. And also the third point, which we've talked about before, again, is, even if you're making the calls, you may want to hire an ISA. So that's what I got to say about that. I think one of my partners wanted to chime in. Just to remind you, it's not our ISA. It's a company that we have a relationship with. We will refer them to the company that we've been recommending that'll do the calls for you, and you hire that company directly. So thank you for that, Tim.
One thing I was going to ask, I thought when you had talked to me yesterday about this, I think what you'd said was that the only thing that they've been doing in that period of time is they are doing the mailings. They just haven't been doing the calls, and that was kind of the whole point of turning over to the ISA referral partner, because they're doing that well. But so far, all they've really been doing is using Mailbox Motivator generate the revenue they've done, and they've been patiently, following through, and they've been doing it diligently for a long time. We looked at their account yesterday just to kind of see what they've been doing, and that's a pretty amazing story for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what Hal told me was they were leaning way too heavily on the mail. They are screening the leads, and if there's upscale real estate that they definitely want to buy, then they make the calls. But they're not calling everyone. You're right. They could do so much better. Bruce, you had something to add?
Well, so let's kind of tackle that phrase that you just said there. So they've been leaning way too heavily on the mail. Someone like Hal, they will probably not cut back on mail, because why cut back on something that's working and generating revenue? So by leaning too heavily on it, it basically means that you're not supplementing that with anything. And this applies to every single one of our businesses. If you are a real estate agent, if you're an investor, and you're only doing one single thing to get business, and even if it's working, it's probably time to strategize and think of how you can either add to that existing stream of business, that existing spoke, or add new spokes to your business. So in probate, we really teach a couple step approach. Is you've got the mail, needs to be going out, needs to be consistent, and needs to last for generally at least 5 or 6 months. And by at least, some of our subscribers are going 12 to 18 months on their mail. But if you're doing mail, it should last 5 to 6 months. You need to add on to that mail a consistent and steady calling, prospecting approach. If you're using ISAs, you should probably also be taking some time, even if it's just an hour and a half, 1 day a week. You should also take some time to do prospecting yourself. It just gives you insight into what your ISA is dealing with, what they're saying, what they're hearing on the phone. So please, guys, if you're not a big prospector, if you don't feel super comfortable on the phone, or you don't have a lot of time, an hour and a half a week is really nothing. If you can do more, do more. You need to be doing marketing. So for those of you that don't know how to do the marketing, record some videos teaching people about the probate process, teaching people what you do. So these are all different things that you should be adding into your business, and not leaning on one single marketing approach. If you can add 3 or 4 marketing approaches to your probate business, you're going to see success.
Yep, well said. And Jim, I know you wanted to add something. I was going to also interject. I forgot to mention that they're doing business in one of the New York City boroughs, so not a pretty competitive market, and they're managing to get those kind of numbers. It's very impressive. Tim, you wanted to add something also?
I really this is an announcement, because a lot of people know the person that I'm going to be referring to in this. Our technical support manager, Toby, he and Paige have been patiently awaiting the arrival of Penelope Ren Gutierrez, who arrived this morning at 12:10 p.m., and mother and baby are doing fine. So I just wanted to let you know that Toby is a proud papa, and he'll be missing in action for a bit. He's taking paternity leave to go off and be a daddy for a while. So we're all excited for him.
So no support tickets for the rest of the day to Toby, and tomorrow also.
There you go.
No, obviously somebody will be covering for him. That's great news. Congrats. I'll go online and tell them that's awesome. We have no one in the queue, guys. Chuck, anything you'd like to add?
Yes, as a matter of fact, in a number of orientation calls this week where we onboard new subscribers, I've had the opportunity. We really have brought on some really strong players in their respective markets. And one of the themes so far this week in a lot of my conversations has been people are seeking out branding opportunities. And that just really excites me from a standpoint that diving into the probate niche has the opportunity to really set yourself apart and focus on building a brand that can be recognized. And I think that's something for all subscribers and folks that are listening to the Mastermind, is that you really have the opportunity to expand by focusing on, marketing to the personal representatives first. Second, building those relationships with probate, elder law, estate planning attorneys, and really building out a brand and an opportunity to build out your network. I'm really excited to see some of the wins that we're going to bring to this Mastermind in the coming months, because of the players they have some experience in probate already and have a reputation, and they're looking for a way to be able to grow their business by leveraging ATL and the services and training that we have here. And, really diving into a lot of these branding conversations has me really pumped up. I'm excited today.
Awesome, Chuck. Chuck, when you were talking, it reminded me, so many times people have asked us on this call, should I be calling the executors or the attorneys? And of course, we always say yes, both. And it kind of reminds me of the Blakes leaving so much on the table by not doing consistent lead follow-up. In your conversations, you and Bruce, with our subscribers, I'm curious. I always say I think a majority of them just focus on the executors. Do you think that's accurate? More than half of them don't focus on the attorneys? Or do you think, or am I exaggerating?
I'd say it's 80% don't focus on the attorneys. Chuck, what do you think?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think it's the 80-20 rule. And I think those that are having significant success with our programs and leveraging it, they're also building those relationships with professionals that can send them referrals.
Yeah. Talk about low-hanging fruit. I mean, probate is that to start with, but those are the lowest branches of the low-hanging fruit, the attorneys, because even if you got 2, 3, 4, 5 agents in your market, working probate, you're probably going to be the only one contacting the attorneys. The odds are highly in your favor. So again, I don't think we can remind you enough. It's a two-pronged attack and program. Reach out to the executors first, but don't ignore the attorneys. We do have one person in the queue. Thank you. And we do have room for more. Just hit *6 and hit 1. And let's go to our first caller. First up this week is phone number ending in 4089.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris, and I spoke with Chuck earlier this week on my orientation call, and his point about branding brought up a question that I forgot to ask, and I'm still waiting for my first set of leads, and when I receive them and I'm getting ready to send out my first letter talking about branding, do I want to put my real estate logo somewhere in letterhead, or do I want to avoid branding myself as a realtor out the gate?
Oh man, this is a question that so many people ask, and the truth is there really isn't a one size fits all. So I could my answer to you is going to be just yes. Both are good approaches: branding yourself out of the gate, or not branding yourself out of the gate. So I think that there's pros and cons to either one. I'll tell you in my markets what I've generally done is in the first letter, I have not branded myself. So I'm just Bruce. And
do you leave the letterhead blank?
Yeah, I do. I don't put it on letterhead. Now,
okay.
With that said, I do put my real estate license status in the footer, but it's really small. Okay. Most people don't read that. Okay, so I get the disclosure in there because it's legally required, or at least ethically required if you're a realtor. Okay, So, but the letterhead and the logo at the top is non-existent on my first letter. And that's because I don't want someone to pigeonhole me into only looking to sell a house when I can help with so many other things. And then on future marketing pieces, I'll add in logos.
Okay.
And I think
is it kind of the goal? Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to add one other thing to that, and it really depends on the content of your letter. If the content of your letter is focusing on trying to get them the best price for the house or wanting to buy the house, and that's really what your focus is. And that's not what we recommend, pushing, because we're trying to talk about adding value. But if the content of your letter is talking about what can I help you with, how can I help you, you really want to lead with it looking like you're reaching out to them, because literally you have a service that you want to provide. And branding it instantly as a business, even if it's not even a real estate business, instantly people are going to look quickly at what's at the top. And if they see that it's a business, then they're going to make a quick decision that this is an ad. And you want them to read that content. So you've got to make sure that when you look at your letter, I urge everybody to do the same thing. Get it in your hands, get the thought about what it's going to look like. Look at your proof of the letter and say, if I got that, what would my reaction be? And, Bruce is making a good point, but it all depends on the content of that letter. If your letter is referring to the services that you offer and all of that, don't begin by putting your logo up on the top, because that's going to do exactly what Bruce said. You're going to get dovetailed, and you're going to be hit the round pile pretty quick, probably.
Mm-hmm. I'm just looking here at my campaign, and I don't put a logo on my letters until my third letter. So my first two letters don't have any logos on them. And then my third, I put a logo, and I have a postcard that's in between the second letter and the third letter. Of course, a postcard has a logo. So they're getting two mail pieces from me that are content focused without a brand. And then they get a postcard that has a brand, and that third letter has a brand on it as well, or a logo on it as well. Forgive me, not a brand, a logo. And I'm not saying that that's the right way to do it, but I did intentionally think about that process, because I don't want them to see a real estate logo at the top and say, this is a realtor not ready to sell the house, trash, when there's a lot of stuff that I say in that letter that they need to hear that isn't directly related to putting a sign in the yard yet.
Okay.
And I think
Thank you.
I would take even an alternative approach, because in many cases, if your first piece is going to be a trifold brochure, it's going to be more of a branded mail piece, and your branding is going to be there. But if you wrap that with the letter that kind of introduces you as the individual, I think you have that opportunity to still say, hey, look, we are a probate solutions company, and we are here to be able to help you overcome, the obstacles that you may be facing as you go through this process. So I look at it from a standpoint that if I want to build my probate solutions company brand, that I don't have fears that it's going to necessarily turn somebody off. And I look at it from a branding perspective that even I had discussions this week about even people setting up billboards that was, in their respective markets, to be able to market to even people that aren't in the probate process quite yet. And, so being able to establish that, depending on how you want to position your brand and how you want to help people, I think there can be an alternative approach that you can double down on reassurance of leveraging your brand and the good experience that you've been able to provide to other people in the marketplace, that it can actually be a benefit to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Very good, Chris. Kind of reminds me of years ago when the ugly yellow letters came out. They were figuring out what everybody else was doing, very professional, sophisticated branded letters, and they just look like they scribbled on a yellow legal pad. And, now those have kind of been overused, but, I think just to add to everything you guys said, it also depends on what your goal is. If you're strictly an investor, you might want to brand yourself as not being a realtor, but then we don't recommend that. We recommend every realtor have an investor, every investor have a realtor. So ideally, you want to open their mind and not close them to anything. And if the logo is too big, like even those ugly yellow letters now, they just kind of have lost their effectiveness because they got overused. So smart guy years ago told me, try to figure out what everybody else is doing and do the opposite. And that's kind of a good theory. And Chris, when you when you look at when you go to our website, and I'm assuming you've probably already picked your letter out, but like Tim said, make sure the letter matches the look of it, and we'll do that for you. We've got some great examples there, and that's what our people at Mailbox Motivator will do. So we have no one.
Can I ask a
Oh, yeah, please. Yeah, please follow up. Sure. Go ahead.
This is actually a different type of question, but I have tried to get into my local RIA meeting. It was going to be on a Zoom yesterday because of COVID, and actually the speaker got COVID, and so the whole thing was canceled. So I'm kind of, I'm still going to take that approach with the RIA. I'm excited to be part of that. But are there any other areas? I'm super new to real estate, like 6 months. Are there any other areas or places where I can find investors besides the RIA?
Yeah, great question.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Local Facebook groups. I'm sure if you put into your search bar and then filter in Facebook, to be able to search in the groups category and look for real estate investors, put your local market name in there, you'll have a number of different options. I know I started one, or together with some other meetup group leaders in my home market, and I'm an admin of one that's, I think it's been 4 or 5 years now. We have over 6,000 members of real estate investors, agents, contractors, etc. And we definitely monitor that group to make sure that it's focused strictly on providing value, referrals and recommendations, conversations surrounding real estate. You have the opportunity to build relationships with some really smart people that know how to structure some really good investment deals and get recommendations and referrals for people that are active in the market for professionals that are going to benefit you and help you build out your referral partner team for this particular business.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome.
I can add two others. Go ahead, Bruce. You go first, please.
You add 2 others first, because you might cover my bases.
All right. I tell you how long we've been doing this. 8 years ago, we started this company. We used to say, go down to the courthouse for your foreclosure sales. In most areas of the country now, that's been replaced with online sales. But if there are any sales at your courthouse, tax lien, I know up in the sticks where Tim lives, up in Brevard County, they still do them live. Some of them that don't do foreclosure sales still do the tax auction. So anywhere they're doing real estate auctions or sales, just go there with a handful of business cards. Everybody standing there to bid is going to be an investor. The other thing that we've mentioned many times over the years is most MLSs now have the ability to check tax rolls, but if yours doesn't, there's so many list companies out there like ListSource, and my partners probably know better ones, but go in to an area that you're interested in and search out people that own multiple properties. And you can usually parameter in there. I want to know everybody in this subdivision that owns 3 or more properties, because obviously those are the buy and hold people. Those are the landlords, and that pretty much makes them an investor. Did I cover any of yours, Bruce?
No, but
okay.
Those I would have, if I had longer to think about it. Those would be 2 that I would have added. So those are genius, and I agree wholeheartedly. So Chuck's idea of going to Facebook, you should also go do the same search on LinkedIn. There will probably be groups in LinkedIn. Not all investors go to LinkedIn, but there will most likely be some groups there. And then you should also go to meetup.com and search for investor groups. Typically, you're going to find RIA on the meetup groups, but you'll probably find 1 or 2 smaller private investor networks and groups on meetup.com as well.
Okay.
Also, a couple other apps you might want to consider looking at. I don't know if you are familiar with Nextdoor, but I see people on Nextdoor. Occasionally you'll see an investor trying to sell a house, but I've also seen people on there who have just posted something very simple that says, I'm looking for a real estate investor. And They don't say anything more than that, so they don't get in trouble with the admins on the on Nextdoor. The other thing you can do is pop something up similar to that on Craigslist. There are areas on Craigslist you can explore to put that in, and unless somebody beats you up on that, you'll get some quick responses there as well.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Good job, guys. We have 2 more in the queue. Next up, we got 3 more in the queue. Next up is phone number ending in 2020. You're up next.
How clear is that? 2020. That's why I'm here. My name is Crystal. I am from Metro Atlanta.
That's crystal clear.
New.
Crystal clear, right?
That's right. That is absolutely right. Crystal clear. And I'm very new to to ATL, and I am just wanting to know the different types of marketing strategies. I'm looking for how to work the ATL leads from you guys' perspective. What works best? What's the best practice? What is how do you guys say it? What are the marketing trends that I should be looking out for? I know you can't answer this all at one time, but just as a newbie to probate, what marketing strategy, I guess, should I start with? I guess that's the one that I'm looking for the most amount of return, because I'm looking at this particular spoke in my wheel for the first quarter of this year.
So I'll give you
I know it's
3 or 4 things as an overview that you can work on from a marketing perspective, but you also need to get into the February Probate Foundations class, because that will go into a lot greater detail on these than we can go into on this call. But basically, mail. So your marketing approach should include mail. As I mentioned a little bit ago, it needs to last for 5 to 6 months at minimum. I'm okay with people doing a single mail piece that's really high impact with like a letter and a brochure and kind of putting a bunch of stuff into one really high impact. I'm okay with that if you're only going to do like 1 month of mail. But if you want your mail to stand out, it needs to last for close to 6 months. The other thing would be you've got to hit the phones. Okay, you're looking for the trends, and mail and phone calls are not really the hot topic of the day. But those are the things that consistently and predictably get business in. So you need to be on the phone. You should be incorporating attorney outreach into your campaign. And then lastly is I think you need to have a really strong YouTube channel where you have a playlist for probate and estate management. So probate and estate management. Go out, learn what you're doing in probate, learn the different processes in your county, and do short videos teaching those things. Video is kind of key, and it's one of the things that a lot of people don't do, including me. I mean, I'm not great at forcing myself to do video. If you want an example of someone who does a great job doing video, go look Chuck Steercup. He's some guy that we don't know around here, but he does a lot of really good video. So those would be the 4 approaches that I think you should take. Mail first, calls second, then build an attorney outreach approach, and then start doing some video to establish some online presence.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Yep.
All right. Next up in the queue is phone number ending in 9207. You're up next.
Hey, good afternoon. How you doing? My name is Michael Reynolds. I'm based out of Tampa, but I do marketing in Jacksonville and Savannah, Georgia.
Nice.
Okay. The question that I have is, I have got a referral for probate out in Burlington, New Jersey, and probate that I looked into, I checked the records and everything. The homeowner passed away, and recently her son just passed away. And there's like no way to find no next of kin. I checked everything to find like a next of kin, daughter, granddaughter, anybody, but I couldn't find anybody. So how would you go about doing tracking on that? Because I don't want to let that lead go to waste.
Obituary first. Find the obituaries and see if they've listed any kind of next of kin there.
Okay.
Next thing is, if you're not able to find anyone, you should be mailing the residence where the decedent lived. Someone, if there is a next of kin, and if they know about the death, then someone's going to be checking that mail. Okay, so those would be kind of the first two things I would do. I'm not sure if my fellow coaches have anything to say about that. And then also, if it's a referral, we do have at least one, and I'm not going to mention a name right now just in case there are two in the county, but I know for a fact that we have at least one great subscriber in the Burlington County area who knows probate and does an amazing job. So you can either reach out to us or you can post that on our Facebook group if you're looking to refer that out.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. And my last question is marketing. I do my direct mail marketing. I used to get my probate leads from foreclosuredailies.com. Great service, everything. But I find you guys more attractive to my style. And I hear a lot about direct mail marketing and all that. I'm pretty good with that. And going over the fast track course and everything, and talking with Chuck, my first orientation call, gave me some actually great pointers. But do you have any suggestions as far as email marketing?
Oh, man, email marketing is, by the way, for everyone that hears this, don't think that I'm trashing email marketing. I absolutely love email marketing when you have a proven list. All right, so we've skip traced the leads, and we're providing email addresses with a lot of the leads, but you may have 4 or 5 names on your list of heirs per estate, and there might only be one email address. And I don't know about you guys, but I have 7 email addresses. So if you skip trace me, you might find one that I use, and you might find one that I don't. So if you're going to do email marketing, you need to test each individual email privately, not in a group email. So you need to test it, see if it gets open, make sure it doesn't bounce back before you do any kind of bulk email marketing. If you do email marketing, it should be very heavily content driven. So instead of being sales driven, hi, you're going through probate, use me, every single email, you need to be educating them more than selling them. So I would put my sale in a PS and education in my body. I just have a multiple touch approach of emails that are focused on teaching them short, kind of bite-sized things that can get them through probate faster, easier, and cheaper. With a PS that says, if you need to sell real estate or you want someone to handle this for you, here's what I can help. So you're going to do that and kind of take the Gary Vaynerchuk jab, 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 hook approach where you're offering value, then selling on that 4th or 5th touch. But just be aware that the email addresses that you're getting when you skip trace may or may not be the most accurate ones.
Oh, no.
Okay, so if you're going to build an email list and build that marketing campaign out, you really need to offer people a way to opt in so that you know that you've gotten more accurate emails that have been voluntarily given to you versus skip traced. So just be careful so that you don't get yourself flagged as a spammer.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
And Mike, back up to your first question a bit. 2 things. If you like, after the call, we can connect you with the the really good agent that we know there. And because what I was going to say, what's worked for me better than you think it might is the simplest approach. Put a note in the door or send a letter to the house. Even if both people are deceased, somebody, unless the house is just totally abandoned, somebody's cutting the grass, somebody's paying utility bills, winterizing it, etc. So having a local presence of somebody that could go by and put a note in the door, maybe send a letter, maybe do some local research would probably be valuable. And I wanted to congratulate you because we have said so many times before, especially if you have Probate Plus, one of the values of it is getting all of these out of the area properties that you can refer. You can, if you do it properly, you should be able to cover a significant portion of your marketing costs by referring the ones that aren't local to other agents. So back to my first part, would you like us, after the call, to try to connect you with somebody we know that's good in that area?
Sure, because I think last year I let like 3 probates slide in that area because I've been working so many probates in Jacksonville with Al Nicoletti. So I just wanted to expand. So sure, you can connect me.
Yeah, and you guys, so you're looking, I guess I misunderstood. You're not looking to refer it. You're looking to joint venture with somebody with boots on the ground, or you're okay with either?
I have boots on the ground there. I just don't know too much about the Burlington County office or anything like that, probate. So, no, I can refer it out. JV, it makes no difference to me.
Okay. All right. So we'll after the call, Bruce or Chuck, if you would, we'll connect with you and make that referral, introduce it to someone there that could help you, and then you guys work out the details. Fair enough?
Sure. That's fair enough.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Well, we appreciate it. Good stuff. Appreciate you participating. We have one more in the queue, guys. We do have some time for more. Hit *6 and hit 1. And otherwise, I'll be closing the queue in about 5 minutes. Next up is phone number ending in 4471. You're up next.
Hi, guys. Good morning. This is Winston Covington out in Southern California. And I just want to respond to the young lady that was looking for investors, and all those suggestions I thought were great. But there's also another one that I think would be beneficial to folks here on this call because it's an international group. It's very strong here in the U.S., and it's biggerpockets.com. It's an online type of real estate investor information source, training source. It's where investors are looking for opportunities. It's a really neat thing to belong to. I've been a member for years. It's been very helpful to me in making my investments and making good contacts. So again, biggerpockets.com is just what I wanted to put out there to help her and possibly others on the call.
That's great, Winston. Thank you. When I hear your name, I feel like it should be Winston Covington III. It sounds like just such a distinguished name. Do you get that a lot?
It's Winston Raleigh Covington III.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I made that up. What a great name. It sounds very prestigious. So, and that's a good suggestion. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
All right. We have 2 more in the queue. Next up, phone number ending in 4917. You're up next.
Thank you, Dwayne in Maryland. The
hey,
question
Dwayne.
I have, good call today. The question I have probably covers other areas as far as sources and so forth. Recently, something came up in the last few days about the source of the leads, which is the Register of Wills for Washington County, Maryland, and they said it's now closed to the public. So that being the case, how do you manage getting leads from a situation like that when you're close to the public? Or do you have a pass to get in or get by to access
Tim,
leads?
I think, that's probably a question for Tim. He's our data manager. Please, go ahead.
We've been doing this a long time, and over the many years that we've been doing this, we have multiple ways of getting at the data that we need to get. And I don't know the specifics on your county, but if it's a county that you've been getting, you'll continue to get it. We have multiple ways of getting information and continue to source it I kind of guess that's all I can tell you. We don't have any, if it's closed to the public, it's closed to the public. But in some cases, we have subscription services we work with. We have data contracts to pull information. Lots of other ways to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm not in the program yet. That came up and it kind of gave me pause to wonder, okay, what happens? There's so much going on with this COVID, 2 years later, we're all still living with the results and probably will for a long time. So that was it. There's a spike in the COVID in this area. And so, I said close to the public.
Yep. So yep. I can tell you that, we went through a lot of this certainly last year at the peak of it, particularly in the Northeast. A lot of courts were closed. And in some cases, we literally were unable to get information for some significant period of time, not so much because we couldn't get it. It's literally because no one was coming to the courthouse. They were not accepting information in. The people who normally worked there were not able to actually get to work. They were not allowing them to come into the courts to work. Now, what's happened over the course of the last year or so is that so many people found ways to let their people do virtual work from home, and even courts and things like that began to do that. The challenge there was always to provide a secure environment for that to happen because they're dealing with public information, but they began using VPN and remote terminal access to systems in the courthouses and gradually began to get them back open again. And as that's happened, those became a bit more easily accessible for everybody. So, I can't, specifically, say that that's the case, but as it stands right now, we're in good shape. And, I guess,
Dwayne,
I best answer, try to give you, we'll have somebody give you a buzz and talk to you about your area and get you some leads.
Yep, I was just going to say somebody will reach out to you. Go ahead.
I've already had a couple of conversations with Darcy there, so that's fine. Okay. I can reach out to her. A call or two back, one of you mentioned as far as YouTube, if you want to check somebody's YouTube or something, did you say the name was Chuck, or I didn't quite hear it at this end?
Oh yeah, Chuck's on the call. He's one of our coaches. Chuck does about as good a job on YouTube as many people that I know. I don't know if it's all probate related. I don't think it's all probate related, Chuck. But what's your YouTube channel if anyone wants to go check it out?
So we have our YouTube channel as Matching Lancaster. So we don't focus strictly onto probate, but that's absolutely in our team's goals for starting up. We're starting up a whole other brand in our local market. So the YouTube specific to probate is we are churning that right now, but we don't have anything published at this point.
But if you want to see a good YouTube channel with content that is professionally yet affordably done, you should look at Chuck's channel.
Yeah. That's my question. And how do I find it? How do I find that, regardless of what the content is? Where do I find it on YouTube?
Go ahead, Chuck. Say it again.
The YouTube channel is Matching Lancaster.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
Yep, all right. Perfect. We have one more person in the queue. We have plenty of room for more. Just hit *6 and hit 1. And next up is phone number ending in 6755. You're up next.
Yeah, this is Michael from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Hey, Mike.
I've got two items. Hey, guys. I've got two items. The first one is I'm sort of recapping my numbers from last year. And according to what I came up with, from May to December, I started doing calls in May, and up to December 31, I made 1,384 calls or dials, and I spoke to 223 people, had some type of conversation with them. That's roughly around 16%. And if you compare that to what I typically do when you compare it to like for sale by owners, circle prospecting, and other telemarketing type, things that I've been doing, I'm tracking about 25% when you look at everything as a whole. So I'm thinking 16% is not too bad, but well, you tell me, is that a good, bad, so number?
Solid, yeah.
What do you think?
Solid. I think a typical conversation rates range between 8 and 20%. So you could certainly be doing worse. Honestly, now that you know that you've got the 16%, now you just need to model out your business based on knowing that you're going to have a 16% conversation rate. I don't believe that 16% is bad at all. I think in my market, I get somewhere around an 11 or 12% conversation rate.
Well, the really bad number is that 223 only turned into three appointments. That's it.
Yeah,
and it turned into maybe.
Go ahead. We probably work on that.
Yeah, and then the other, but it did turn into, let's say, maybe 4 to 5 maybes, where there is some type of real estate involved, and there's going to be some kind of disposition of that real estate at some point in time. So there are 3 or 4 or 5 possibles that had not yet been appointments. So I think overall it's tracking halfway decently.
So what I would look for out of the 200 is I'd look for half to be definite no's. Okay, so 100 to be a definite no, 100 to be a follow-up, a maybe, or a yes. The majority of that 100 would be a follow-up or a maybe. Now, are you in the 200? Are you including conversations with people that you've had 2 or 3 or 4 conversations with already? Or are those?
That is correct. Yes, those are people that we've followed up with. That's correct. These are people we followed up with, or these include multiple contacts to the possible same people. Not all the time,
okay.
But that is done in there.
What I'd like to see is how many of those conversations were actually initial first-time conversations, and my bet would be 100. So let's just take that guesstimate that I have as 100. 50 are going to be a definite no. 50 are going to be a follow-up. Okay, so a large portion of those 50 that you're following up with aren't going to be an immediate appointment. So I would have speculated that out of the 50 that are a maybe or a future piece of business, you should have probably had 10 to maybe even 15 appointments at this point. So at this stage of the game, I think just kind of continuing to work on your dialogue approach. And I know that you and I both study a lot of NLP. So just continuing to work on and perfect that dialogue approach will get you better results in this upcoming year.
All right. The second item is one of the maybes. So there's an attorney is the PR for the estate. The guy passed away without a will, and the attorney is taking over, handling everything. She petitioned the court to sell the property, and the court made a ruling yesterday. So that they gave her the permission to sell. They required an appraisal, and I got a copy of the court order. It says that it is to be sold through a private sale with the court, and then it has to be filed with the court. They have to file all the paperwork with the court. So the question is, in North Carolina, Bruce, does the court see this as a typical private sale, as if I was selling it between you and I normally, or is this a judicial type sale really, where the court is going to go actually, upset bid period, that kind of thing? What is a private sale in the court's eyes?
I believe that a private sale is an arm's length transaction. I think that's what they're referring to. In North Carolina, it's pretty rare that you have specific language that's like that. I think I've seen it once, and this has been 5 or 6 years ago that I saw it. And I think that it just meant it can't be a friend or a family member.
Okay. Because of this particular transaction, I'm working as the buyer's agent, right? I brought a potential buyer to the table, and we made an offer on the property. And I don't. From what I'm understanding, based on this court order, that our offer cannot be accepted by the PR. That's the impression I'm getting from her, and I'm just trying to confirm that because I don't know, what this means. So, but I guess I'll follow up with.
I think it's a private sale. I can reach out to a few of the attorneys that I know and see if one of them can give me an answer, though.
If I need to, just let me know if I need to send you like a summary of it or something. Let me know. I can send that to you.
Yeah, go ahead and shoot that up to me. I'm gonna just bounce it off of a few probate and estate attorneys to see if one of them has dealt with language like that before. Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot for your time. I appreciate it.
Yep. All right. We appreciate all of you. That will wrap it up for this week. As I always do, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. Particularly, we had a great turnout and good participation. I want to thank the 6 or 7 people that actively participated, and I want to challenge each of you. We had some great interactions, some great ideas. Take one thing that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Have a great week, everybody. Talk to you same time next Thursday.